Just a topic that I feel like I've delved into at different points throughout my life, but I never really had a sort of like a language for it. And it is um, sort of like the topic of like the self image that we have of ourselves. That I think in one of the ways that I remember it manifesting a lot to me is that um, I worked in a company in which there was a lot of space for people to move around and do different things, learn from different areas, specialize in different things, not specialize on a certain thing and just like become sort of like a jack of all trades and these kind of things. Um, but then something that would happen is that even though there were so many opportunities to kind of like move around and try different things and try new things and learn new things, people would join the company, work on something, and then they would stay on that something. They'd be like, oh, this is the thing that I know, so this is the thing that I have to stay with, even though it's something that they learned on that first sort of like role that they had inside the company. It's not something that they learned in school before they joined the company. It's something that they were born knowing. It's something that they picked up along the way. And at some point along the way, that topic became almost like their identity. It became the way in which they defined themselves in that environment, and thus they started to have a really hard time disconnecting from it. And it was sort of like unnerving in the sense that it felt like people are, from my perspective, they were trapping themselves in a hole of their own creation that they bought the shovel, made the hole, put themselves on the hole, and then dropped the dirt back in, and they didn't even notice themselves doing it. And this plays out in many different ways. That this plays out in job titles, in job descriptions, in what school you go to, what's your last name, what is the major that you specialized in. All these things and all these almost like details of life that we were not born with, but at some point we forgot that they were not there from the start. And so we began to define ourselves through the lens of those things. That um, suddenly we realized, oh, we are part of the group of people that look this way. And so people who look this way think this way. And so we started then building out this image on or off what we are or who we're supposed to be based on pieces and uh, components of information that we maybe experienced, or maybe of what people said, or the way in which maybe some people challenged what we thought. That through those experiences we started to create this image, this persona of who it is that we were. But that, like, the components that put the image together again were not there from the start. And so eventually people get to a point in which they have a really shit time deciding where it is that they want to go, because they have Frankensteined their image of themselves by stitching all these different ideas that are not theirs together. And when they look back, they can't tell how it is that they got there. They can't tell where it is that the road is going, because they're looking at a road that they're looking at the road through a lens that is not their own. It's a lens that at some point they borrowed or they accidentally put on themselves, and forgot about it, or never even considered it. Never even considered it in the first place. So they didn't even have to forget it because they didn't even notice. Um, And so eventually, what this all seems to lead up to is that it puts an immense amount of pressure on people on maintaining those images or maintaining things as they are, when at the same time, they're trying to find themselves. They're trying to find who it is that they are, but they're trying to find it in this rubble of things and parts that they've stitched together, that they can't even recognize. And as opposed to maybe going back and realizing, hey, all these things weren't there again from the start. This house, this car, this financial position, this corporate position, this position in society, these definitions of what kind of person I am. Am I a good person? Am I not a good person? Am I racist, or whatever it is that other people might have said that you were, and then we forgot. And in forgetting, we also get into the trouble of comparing this image that we've stitched of ourselves with the image that we see of the people around us, of the image that we see other people stitched of them, or the part of that image that we think we see of them, and that we think that defines them. That suddenly we think the size of our house is an important enough detail about who it is that we are. So when someone has a house that's bigger, then suddenly that challenges your nature, that challenges who you are. And one of the biggest examples of this is the example of ideas, of people who believe in different things, religion being one of them, science being another, in which if someone doesn't agree with the way in which you look at the world and the way in which you think of the world, then it's as if that person is insulting your very nature. It's as if that person is insulting who it is that you are. But again, those things were not things that you were born with. They're not things that are intrinsically yours. And they're not things that need to define the way in which you think or interact with other people, or the way in which you don't interact with those people. So I truly wonder where it is that this comes from. Is it truly a human thing for us to devise these strange imageries of ourselves, or is it a thing that we're truly just learning and absorbing through interfacing with the world? That is it a thing that we're doing because we're mirroring what we're seeing in the world, and we're mirroring that other people are doing it, or is it truly something that is intrinsic of us? And if it is something that is intrinsic of us, then in what way do we integrate it in a way in which it plays out or it manifests and leads us somewhere that is of truth to us, or of alignment to us, and of alignment of who it is that we truly want to be, what kind of image it is that we truly want to have, as opposed to us just scavenging and taking all these things that don't really resonate with us, but we are convinced that they must resonate with us. We are convinced that there are things that we must absolutely strive for and do, in contrast to the things that we do not want to strive for, in contrast to the things that we do not want to be seen as. How do we integrate who we are with what we're not, without letting pieces of ourselves kind of like fall apart along the way?